For 20 years, the Pentagon had no answer to this question. What do you do when 24 missiles are screaming toward a carrier at Mach 10? They ran that war game 1,000 times. Every simulation, every scenario. The carrier always dies. In 2026, the US Navy stopped trying to solve that problem and deleted it. They didn't build a faster interceptor. They turned the atmosphere itself into a weapon. And in the 14 seconds it takes China to launch a kill shot, the plasma shield vaporizes $2 million missiles before they cover the last mile. China spent $1.2 trillion betting that Mach 10 was unstoppable. They were wrong, and they're about to find out exactly how wrong. For decades, the aircraft carrier was the undisputed king of the ocean. By 2026, that $13 billion asset is facing a problem traditional physics simply cannot solve. China's DF-17 hypersonic missiles don't fly like normal rockets. They skip along the edge of the atmosphere at 7,600 miles per hour, maneuvering like a fighter jet while traveling 10 times faster than a rifle bullet. Standard radar can't track that arc. Standard interceptors can't catch that speed. But here's what actually keeps Pentagon planners up at night: the horizon problem. Because DF-17s hug the ocean surface, the Earth's own curvature acts as a natural shield for the missile. A carrier's radar is physically blocked by the planet itself until the weapon is just 30 miles out. At Mach 10, that's 14 seconds to detect, lock, and fire. 14 seconds to save a $13 billion ship and 5,000 lives. That's not a tactical problem, that's a physics problem. Now run the math. One DF-17 costs China roughly $2 million. Launch 24 simultaneously, and you've spent $48 million threatening an asset worth $13 billion. To defend it, the Navy fires 2 SM-6 interceptors per incoming missile at $4.3 million each, because a single shot only has a 50% kill rate. Stopping one 24 missile wave burns through over $200 million in interceptors. Experts call this defensive bankruptcy, and it's getting worse. China is already testing variants rumored at $99,000 per unit. The math turns catastrophic at that price point. The era of shooting missiles at missiles is officially dead. The Navy isn't building a bigger wall of steel. They're rewriting the rules of matter itself. To kill a Mach 10 ghost, the US deployed phased array laser emitters that strip electrons directly off air molecules, generating a localized curtain of superheated plasma at 15,000 degrees Fahrenheit, hotter than the surface of the sun, projected directly into the flight path of an incoming missile. And this isn't lab science. The DNA of this shield traces back to a classified 1990s program called Project Marauder, where the Air Force successfully fired compact rings of plasma at combat speeds. The world moved on. The Navy didn't. When a Chinese DF-17 enters that ionized barrier, it doesn't get damaged. It gets erased. First, the plasma wall floods the missile's seeker head with a gigawatt-level electromagnetic pulse. Instant sensor blindness. The targeting system that was locked onto a $13 billion carrier is now seeing nothing. It's like trying to find a candle while staring directly into a supernova. Then the physics finish the job. A hypersonic missile's leading edge already glows red-hot at Mach 10. The moment it enters a 15,000-degree plasma curtain, the heat shield doesn't melt. It sublimates. Solid to gas. Instantly. The carbon-carbon composites China spent decades engineering to survive 3,500 degrees simply cease to exist. Without the shield, the airframe shreds into a cloud of titanium dust in nanoseconds. Now, run that math against the cost of a gallon of gas. That's what a single plasma shot costs. One SM-6 missile runs $4.3 million and fires once. The plasma shield fires indefinitely. Networked across a carrier strike group, it creates a defensive bubble that doesn't run out of ammunition, ever. China's entire $48 million first strike costs less to neutralize than a trip to the grocery store. But here's the problem nobody could solve, and not on paper, not in a lab, not in 50 years of naval engineering. How do you power a mini-sun on the deck of a destroyer? Here's the engineering problem nobody could crack for 50 years. You've built a weapon that needs the energy output of an entire city, but you need to fire it in 1 second on a ship in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. That's the real reason the plasma shield stayed science fiction for half a century. It's not the physics work. It's the power. To generate a 15,000-degree plasma curtain, you need gigawatt-level bursts of electricity condensed into a single millisecond pulse. A conventional destroyer running on diesel doesn't have 1/10 of that capacity. You need to park an entire city's power grid on the deck of a 9,000-ton warship and somehow make it fire on command. The Navy solved it by turning the fleet into a network of floating nuclear reactors. Next-generation small modular reactors, SMRs, integrated directly into the hulls of Ford-class carriers and Zumwalt-class destroyers. Each module outputs up to 300 megawatts, enough to power a city of 250,000 people, permanently on a warship, but even a nuclear reactor can't dump a gigawatt in a millisecond. So the Navy added a physics hack, high-density capacitor banks that trickle charge from the reactor over several minutes. Then flash release everything in a single near-instantaneous surge the moment the shield is triggered. Think of it this way. A garden hose running for 24 hours builds a flash flood in 1 second. That's what hits a DF-17 when it enters the curtain. That's the power problem solved. But the hardest problem isn't power, it's discrimination. In a real strike scenario, China won't fire 24 missiles and wait. They'll fire 24 warheads mixed with 200 hollow decoys engineered to look identical on radar. At Mach 10, no human operator alive can sort through 224 incoming objects in 14 seconds. So the shield's AI does it instead, using micro-Doppler signatures to read the vibration pattern of every incoming object in real time. Real warheads vibrate differently than hollow shells at hypersonic speeds. The AI reads that difference in under 10 milliseconds and fires plasma with surgical precision at exactly the right targets. Every time. China spent 20 years engineering the most sophisticated missile doctrine in history, specifically to overwhelm human reaction time. In 10 milliseconds, an AI just made that doctrine extinct. The hardware is dead. But the real damage isn't to the missiles, it's to everything Beijing built around them, and to the men in that room right now who have to explain what just happened to their trillion-dollar strategy. China just spent $1.2 trillion on a missile fleet that's now basically a collection of very fast, very expensive lawn ornaments. Their entire no-go zone strategy across the first island chain was built on one assumption, that a hypersonic missile hitting Mach 10 was unstoppable. The plasma shield just proved that assumption wrong in 14 seconds flat. Think about what that means. China can't call a timeout. They can't hit a reset button. Every admiral in Beijing is staring at their order of battle right now, realizing their most advanced, most expensive weapon system is obsolete. Not in 10 years, now. And here's the part that should keep Beijing up at night. When a defensive shot costs less than a gallon of gas, the US Navy can park a carrier strike group exactly where it was never supposed to go. Right inside the first island chain. Right in China's backyard. There is physically nothing a land-based battery can do about it. The trillion-dollar missile wall wasn't just a waste of money. It was a trap China built for itself. And they just walked right into it. We've officially entered the post-missile era. The fastest weapons in history are suddenly the most useless. The carrier killer is dead. The Pacific is a free zone again. If you want to know what China builds next to take it back, hit subscribe. That breakdown is coming. Now the real question. If China's entire A2AD strategy just collapsed overnight, what does Beijing reach for next? Drop it in the comments. The best theory becomes our next full video.